which brings me to all of the newfound talk about buying art with tokens and doing what Musk is doing, getting a discussion going that frankly is happening so quickly. I need your help. I just need your help.
What questions do you have about NFTs?
Okay, so when I think about NFTs, why do people talk about expensive sneakers and hard to value art? Why are those the things that people talk about?
So let's remember what drives a lot of value. Drives the value of Bitcoin? Scarcity. Yes. Right? There's 21 million of it. What drives the traditional art market? Scarcity. What drives the Supremes and sneakers and kind of all of that economy and culture? Scarcity. What drives trading cards? Scarcity. Now, when you get into the digital world, the best way I know how to explain it is, let's say I have a music file, right? And you want to listen to the same song that I have. I say, okay, great, Jim, I'm going to send it to you. And I hit send. And in a generalized way, what it does is it sends you the computer file. You now listen to the music and I listen to the music. We both are happy because we get to listen to the song. But I don't know if you got the original or the copy of those files. And so when it's music, who cares? You're listening to the song, I'm listening to the song, all is good. But if all of a sudden that computer file is supposed to represent or does represent money, some sort of scarce art, some sort of digital good, it's really important that you know you got the original and you didn't get the counterfeit. And so that's where ultimately kind of the need for some ability to understand what the original is in the digital world comes in. The other way to think about it is, and I forget who thought of this, but I thought it was a really interesting way to look at it, is a serial number. So take the Eiffel Tower, for example. In the physical world, the only Eiffel Tower that has real value is Eiffel Tower number 001. Every other Eiffel Tower after that has almost no value. And they've replicated it in Vegas, in the little trinket that you bring home. And they've even built, real life models of it in a computer, all this stuff. But Eiffel Tower number 001 is really important. And we all know where it is and we can go see it and touch it. In the digital world, it's really hard to do that. And so ultimately what these kind of NFTs or digital goods are doing is they're able to prove that if you create something, this is the original, this is number 001. And so ultimately, when you can now prove scarcity in a digital world, what do people do? They just look and they say, okay, what's the old stuff, right, that had scarcity as a value driver? And now I'm just going to bring it to the new world. It's kind of the equivalent of like a newspaper saying, oh, the internet, like, let me just PDF my newspaper and just put it on a web page and like, I win. But as we saw with the media companies, that's not all of the value that the internet provided. You couldn't change the headlines. You couldn't distribute it differently. You couldn't put multimedia, all that kind of stuff. And so what I'm really excited about is like, what happens 5-10 years from now when people really understand all of the things that can happen here and they start to apply it for new types of goods, right? And so whether it's these kind of virtual museums where you could buy a digital good, you could display it in a virtual museum, and then Jim can go in virtual reality and go actually visit that place. Or what happens if all of a sudden now you look at like the music industry, or you look at some sort of sports tickets. Those things have a secondary market, and those secondary markets can be really, really high volume. But if I'm a sports team and I sell you on the primary sale that sports ticket and you go resell it, I only made money on the primary sale. But now if it's a digital good and I can actually code into the asset and say, hey, every time this trades hands, I want 10%. And I sell it to you, I make my money from the primary sale. Then you sell it, I get 10%. That person resells it, I get 10%. All of a sudden, it becomes a pretty big revenue stream.
But I need blockchain to be able to make that happen, that I can keep track of the revenue stream.
Exactly. It's who owns what, when, right? Is essentially what ends up happening. And so I think that, the key piece for people to understand is like, look, Bitcoin is going to be the global reserve currency. It's going to serve as that kind of world currency you talked about. But people are trying to figure out this technology. What else can I add to it? And I think we got to be careful, because just like when there's always this highly innovative, disruptive technology, people will take it and they'll use it for good and they'll use it for bad. Right. And a lot of times it's hard to tell who's who, because you got good actors and bad actors all kind of doing similar things. And so I think we want to encourage the innovation, want to encourage the experimentation, but we also want to call out the people who are just doing cash grabs or who are just doing things that kind of are malicious. Right. And so I think that's where you're seeing a lot in the community around debate and kind of controversy. It's just like, what is kind of the things that people should be doing versus the things that people shouldn't be doing? But I think Bitcoin obviously has kind of risen above everything in terms of market cap. And now you're seeing kind of exploration in these other areas, and some of it will work and some of it won't.